Peace. This is Reverend Ra. I don't know what your experience was. I didn't learn anything from school, right? There was nothing profound in the academic curriculum that I really retained. The most important thing that I learned from school was social, awareness, and let that be emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness and social awareness, but social things, conversations, interactions, manipulations, social, class systems, even. We have different perceptions, even. That's the most important thing, because when you go out into the world, you're not really interacting with facts and figures and information. You're interacting with people who interpret these different facts and figures and situations, and even the different academia, the way they apply it, people apply these things, right? So the most important thing I learned from school was not academic. It was not anything about math. Of course, there were certain principles that I'd learned from home that I interpreted through school. For example, work ethic and, having a sense of, manners and cleanliness and things of that nature. But the most important thing I learned was social. So what this video is about is really the things that help you navigate through the world is not your IQ, but your EQ, right? Now, the books that helped me develop my EQ, this first one, The Art of Worldly Wisdom. Yo, for me, I live in New York, right? I ride on the train. So when I'm on the train, I want to digest some quick material. Let's say I have 2 stops, 3 stops. I know in my mind, okay, that's only 15 minutes. Let's say it's only 30 minutes, right? I'm not going to get through the entire chapter or through the entire chapter of the book in 30 minutes, okay? And depending on the length of the book, with The Art of Worldly Wisdom, it's almost like a Bible of just proverbs that you can enact in social situations. For example, do not nourish the spirit of contradiction. That's the one that I'm looking at right now. It only proves you foolish or peevish, and prudence should guard against this strenuously. Right? To find difficulties in everything may prove you clever, but such wrangling writes you down a fool. Okay? Post yourself in the center of things. The sage should be self-sufficing. W resources. So what it does is, it has what I just wrote, which is the titles of the different proverbs, the different phrases and quotes and advice that they have throughout this book, which helped me build my emotional intelligence, which is my self-awareness, as well as my social awareness, which helps me navigate through the world. School does not help you navigate through the world. School helps you navigate through those certain systems, but what you learn from school is really all social. I mean, you learn, of course, the basics, of academia, reading, writing and things of that nature, critical thinking, which you do use throughout reality. But really, when you're using critical thinking, you're using your critical thinking throughout circumstances and situations which inevitably involve people. So, boom. The second book, 48 Laws of Power, yo. Moment of silence for the myriad and infinite number of situations that this book has helped me through. You know what I mean? And gave me a deeper context and a deeper insight for. Man, I'm telling you, 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Because the thing about this book is what he does is he not only gives you the law, first he gives you a story, right? And what you learn, once you're going through this journey of personal development, you're reading books and whatnot, you learn that you learn through stories more than information. You learn more through stories than information, because stories give the context for the information, which is why the Bible is made up for stories. The stories are what give you the morals, or what give you the understanding. The point is, the moral of the story is, and then you're emotionally tied to the story, and that's what makes you remember the information, because that emotional attachment to the story. For example, the story of the Trojan horse. We all know that story. The Trojan horse, pulls up and, they say it's a gift, and, they led into the city and they believed that they won the war, but actually within that gift were soldiers. And when all the other soldiers of the city were sleeping, celebrating, getting drunk because they think they won the war, that's when the soldiers that were from Trojan within the Trojan horse came out, dominated the city, conquered, and they eventually won the entirety of the battle, right? But through that story, you understand, sometimes I need to hide the information within a package, or I need to hide my soldiers within the gift. I need to sometimes put the medicine in the food, right? For example, me making this video with no shirt. It's a Trojan horse for itself. It's the medicine within the food. What's gonna bring people in is, it's a black man, speaking shirtless, whatever, physique, da da da. But then I'm actually giving you knowledge, I'm giving you insight, and giving you things that I actually want you to use throughout your reality. And what helped me, like I said, school did not teach me anything. What school taught me was how to navigate social situations. When I went out into the world, nothing that I used from school was relevant. The only thing that was relevant was that when I went out into the world, I said, this is just a bigger high school. When I went out into the workplace, I said, this is just a mini high school. In the sense that the same class systems or social systems. You know what? There's another book, right, by Machiavelli called The Prince. And what it talks about, I believe it's called The Prince. Machiavelli came out with two books. One was The Prince, and there was another book. But what he does is he talks about there always being actually, 40 Laws of Power talks about it too. Talks about it being a court system, right? Where a courtier system, where you're always having different courtiers who are trying to appease the king, or who are trying to appease whoever is in the head, and then you have different people who play their different roles, and the nuances of social interactions. And sometimes you have to put on different faces, sometimes you have to act ignorant, sometimes when you are just a good person at heart, sometimes you need to come with a little bit of fire, a little bit of and you need to piss people off intentionally, not because you're bad, because you have to have a sense of balance in a relationship. Because if you were only good all the time, then people will take that for granted and take that for weakness. So you realize, if I want to give people the utmost good, sometimes I need to give them the quote unquote bad side of me, so that they can put my good in context and they won't take it for granted or take it for weakness. So when I give my good, then they appreciate it more. Just like we appreciate darkness, or we appreciate light because there is darkness. If there was only light, we could not appreciate. If there was only light, we couldn't appreciate the light because we have no reference for what it is. Right? So when you give someone light all the time, that is what it is. I can take care of it. You know why? Because within yourself, you know you're the light in the darkness. So you say, you know what? Oh, that a disadvantage because they don't have both sides. I can take advantage of that. So as that other person, you have to realize, wait a second, everybody out here operates within their light and their darkness. I need to do that as well. That is how I navigate certain social situations and things of that nature. Excuse me. So boom. The last one. Laws of Human Nature. Now, this is the most recent book from Robert Greene. Robert Greene is also the one who wrote 48 Laws of Power. You know that this book is powerful because Robert Greene had a stroke writing this book. How hard do you need to write to have a stroke while writing a book? Like I said, and it's the same formula. What he does is, first he contextualizes it with a story. You're tied into the story. He goes deep into the story. After the story, he breaks down he contextualizes the law within the story, and then he has the law by itself. So you have, 3 sections in which you are getting a perfect insight into, how does this pertain to me? How is this relevant to me in my life and my reality? Because if I just give you the law, you're like, okay, that's just information by itself. That's just raw data by itself. But then if I give you a story, you're able to look at that story and then put it in a relevance within your life and within your reality, and then, shape your perception off of that. Like I said, I didn't learn anything from school. So I'm giving you what I use in my actual reality, right? I use social and awareness and self-awareness. I use my emotional intelligence, my EQ throughout everyday situations, as opposed to my IQ. Your EQ is your common sense. Common sense ain't that common. You learn. And you also learn this. This is why EQ, your emotional intelligence, is more important than your IQ, your intellectualism. Nobody cares what you know unless they know that you care. Nobody cares what you know unless they know that you care. So nobody cares how smart you are unless they know that you actually care for them and that you actually care about their success. So you become more smart and smart and smart and smart and smart and smart, but then what is the result of that? Where are you trying to go with that? Information really only matters when it is shared. Information does not matter in and of itself. Data does not matter in and of itself. It is what it is. So I didn't learn anything from school except how to conduct myself in certain social situations. That's what's important. That's what you need to learn. You need to learn, how do I build my EQ? How do I build my social awareness so that I can navigate in actual everyday situations and in everyday reality? So those are 3 books that I want you to focus on. 48 Laws of Power, Laws of Human Nature, The Art of Worldly Wisdom. Bless. This is Reverend.